Chapter 4 of Star Trek V. Not that good. It's also a little long. I hope this isn't what continues to be the case. I like them shorter, it's just easier to manage my time with. Anyway, it covers a lot. Uhura's on the bridge of the ship. Coming in, the sight was more than a little depressing, except to... The sight was more than a little depressing. Except for Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott, nothing on the new ship worked. Which... I even pulled up the movie. It does... pulled up Voyage Home. That and the novel both end with them going into warp after leaving space dock. And it's like... What? It was fully functional. Now it's not. And this is like days later, potentially. And like very shortly thereafter. What happened? Nothing. Rubbish, Scott finished it bitterly. Fell apart the moment she left space dock. She'll never replace the old Enterprise. It's like, you went to warp. So clearly you did. I mean, it's... There's a deeper issue here. Because not only is it inconsistent, which, that is a problem, but there's also... The only way this would make sense is if you're saying that Starfleet's Corps of Engineers that would handle building the ships are incompetent enough to produce a lemon. A lemon of a well-established, like, decade or so old model. And even with it being a refit version of the Constitution class, it's still like a decade old. Because, it's about 20 years. No, wait. No, it's not. It's about 15 years. Sorry. So it would be about 7 years old. Nearing a decade old. Design. Because the motion picture is when that was introduced. That was supposed to be 8 years from the beginning, and I recall it being about 15 years since the beginning of season 1 of Star Trek. So it's just... Yeah, this is... It does lead to that deeper problem of you saying Starfleet's incompetent. I'm very in favor of rejecting that idea, though, and just being like, well, they wanted some sort of tension with the ship not being in good shape and just decided to do this instead of having there be any other explanation. And it's funny because you could. I mean, why couldn't it have gone into battle or something already? Or just it went out on a mission and got accidentally hit by something, so they had to come back, are repairing it, meanwhile people are on shore leave. Because that way you don't have the whole, we've been on Vulcan for 3 months, doing nothing. We were then on Earth for however long, waiting for the court-martial. Now we finally get aboard the ship, and like, we get on there, hit the gas, it breaks down, and we're already on shore leave. It's like, I get being on Vulcan wasn't really like shore leave, but it still is. These people are doing nothing. Except for Scott. What was this next highlight? Oh, yeah, so this at least, this makes me happy. We're not necessarily getting that there's a relationship going on between her and Scotty. At least, what is in here doesn't have to suggest that. But we do get an explanation for why the whole discussion in the movie about them going on leave together. She had planned her first trip to Scotland for this shore leave and had mentioned it to Scott, but upon learning that she had signed up for a package tour, the engineer had been outraged. He would take her himself, he insisted, and show her far lovelier sights than the tourists would ever see. And there would be no paying for hotels either. She would stay with his sister's family, and that was that. It would be no imposition at all. There are multiple things going on here. But yeah, so that's why. It is not that they are in a relationship. It's just you're not going to my old stomping grounds and taking a tour, okay? I'm going to take care of that. Totally legit. Absolutely can see Scotty doing that. Also, I will add, I do appreciate, because as I said in Voyage Home, Uhura strikes me, the character strikes me as one very intelligent, but would be interested in cultural knowledge. and like would be reading fiction and nonfiction because this is what she enjoys doing. That's why she's in communications. It does, it's something she's already interested in, would have an aptitude for. So the idea that I can see being that she's visited a bunch of places on Earth, and that this is her first trip to Scotland. So it's like, I haven't been there yet, so I'm going to go there now. That, true, I am inferring that because it aligns with my headcanon, but still is it aligns with my headcanon, so cool. But there's also this, and there would be no paying for hotels. They got money. They do have money in the Star Trek universe, and even on Earth, they have money, because she'd have to pay for a hotel. Is there anything else? Nope. Okay, not for that one. So then there's the whole that they're talking, which, that goes fine. A red alert goes off, which they're thinking, oh, something's busted. Her goes over, it was the communications panel, shuts that off. And it's like, oh, we're actually getting a message. So in theory, then the red alert was triggered by the message? Probably not, because even if it is a priority communication, that's not what the red alert is for. So it must have been wires were crossed, but anyway. They are getting some of it. The neutral zone, this ship already proved she can't make her way out of space dock without falling apart. That's not true. They did actually make it out of space dock and went to warp. But anyhow, I know, Uhura said, but if anyone can pull it off, Scotty, you can. It sounded lame even to her own ears. I get it's an appropriate use of the word. I just don't expect lame to be used in Star Trek. Is that just me? Okay. By the way, and this I have in the note here for this highlight. At no time in the chapter is it clear why are they the ones going? Because, I mean, she even did be like, are you aware of our situation? Yes, we understand your situation. You're still going. So there's no other ship available to go to what actually should not be the neutral zone, but I mean, I guess it could be the neutral zone, but it's the whole you'd need, like, the Enterprise would have to be the only ship between the Federation, the Romulan Empire, and the Klingon Empire available to go there, because the neutral zone in this would have to be with the Klingon Empire and Romulan Empire. Because the planet Nimbus 3 is claimed by all three, so they all have jurisdiction there. The Enterprise being the one to answer means that the other two have nothing to answer with. This is it's going to be interesting if we do get an explanation for why it's the Enterprise. Because if we don't, well, even if we do, it might still be just thready. It's like, why is it the Enterprise going? Because it's, Star Trek story, and obviously it has to be the Enterprise. Yeah, but there can still be a reason. Oh, yeah, more stuff with Sulu. It felt odd using the old rank. Now that he'd finally gotten used to being addressed as captain, he was basically never addressed as captain. What was the other thing? Yeah, that. Yeah, he was. There was like one time in Search for Spock, I can recall him being addressed as captain by Kirk. And then later in that chapter, or the next chapter, Kirk is calling him commander. He was not ever addressed as captain, that I can recall. Certainly, across all three of those books, he's addressed as commander far more times than captain. And just, it annoys me because it never made sense before. You're continuing to push it here and make it like, oh yes, I've been a captain this whole time. It's so weird to actually call myself a commander. It's like everyone called you commander. This is like weeks later. That's assuming that the court-martial was weeks long. I mean, it just... We also have this. At his request, he had been temporarily reduced to rank of commander so that he could serve aboard the new Enterprise. Spock is a captain. Spock has the rank of captain. He's going to serve on the Enterprise. He's serving under Kirk. They're just both captains. That's all. Why can't there be a third captain there of rank? There's no reason. They're making this up. And it's just, none of it makes sense. It's just silly nonsense that was never well handled in the previous stories. It's not being well handled now. But it's just being forced on us as well. Like, oh yeah, didn't you know this was the case? It's like, no, I didn't know it was the case. And I read the other books. And I feel like there's another point in here as well. I put in there. There's that. Was that it though? Okay. He was with the crew when going to the Enterprise A and having it revealed, which would indicate that he was always going to be part of the crew there. I mean, unless we're to believe it was okay, Kirk, you're demoted to captain. You're demoted to captain. We're going to assign you a new ship. Oh, okay. Then some length of time goes by, and Sulu's like, do I want my own command, or do I want to stay with Kirk? Well, I'm really loyal to Kirk and all that, so yes, I want to stay with him. Temporarily demote me to that. Now let's find out what the ship is. No. It makes far more sense if we just reject the whole concept of Captain Sulu. Thus far, he's always been commander. It's just, if he had taken command of the Excelsior, which again, that whole situation is probably best removed anyhow. But it's like, and if we just make it where, if he had actually taken command of the Excelsior, then he would have been promoted to the rank of captain. But because that never occurred, he's always been the commander. It could also be, but this would break other things. If it was, he wasn't going to be the captain of the Excelsior. He was going to be its first officer. That would be fair. It's like, hey, this is what your role is going to be. He would still have he can still be involved with its development, with its design, as talked about. He'd still be on there, and he'd still potentially be told, hey, you can't be on there, but it wouldn't be a captaincy, so some of this stuff wouldn't work out as well, but it still is just, it's been full nonsense with this the entire time. And just annoys me. It just annoys me. And we have this here. Kirk had been furious when he'd heard. He gave Sulu hell for not looking after his own career. And then he thanked him. It's like, I mean, kinda I'm okay with that, but not completely. It's still just, yes, Kirk would thank him for the loyalty, for being somebody that he can trust, because he wouldn't necessarily trust other people to pilot the Enterprise. But it's still just, this is dumb. Oh yeah, and here's another thing that's dumb. And I wanna. So, Sulu and Chekhov are on shore leave. They're not in Yosemite with the captains and Bones. They're apparently, it's the Black Hills, isn't that it? Of North Dakota, where you've got Mount Rushmore, which, in the distance, a great mountain thrust into the sky, 5 faces carved into the stone. All of those honored here were political figures who had died centuries before Sulu was born, including the most recent addition to the monument. And it's like, I don't care that what they're describing here is Sarah Susan Eckert is the first Black North M president. I don't care that it's like, oh, a Black president. It's like, no, you don't touch Mount Rushmore. I'm sorry, it's stupid. All of it is stupid. The idea, oh, we're going to put another face on Mount Rushmore. No, we're not. We're never going to do that. It is complete as it is. You want to do something like that again? You go to another mountain. You leave Rushmore as it is. I don't know why people think we'd change it. Beyond just the meme, beyond the joke. But that's all would ever be. But it's also, I was so confused for a while here. And just, I had to do a search, which I found it odd that apparently these are not on memory alpha, but on memory beta. Okay. So there's the Star Trek Wiki memory alpha, that is basically all the canon stuff. Memory beta is for the non-canon. These shouldn't be, well, there's different levels of canon. The novelizations, the film novelizations, and if there are any episode novelizations as well, those should be a higher level. They should not be non-canon, in my opinion. They like higher than that. Not necessarily full canon. Full canon would be the TV shows, would be the movies. Okay, but this shouldn't be far from that, especially because it is working, in theory, off of the original screenplay. In fact, based on the screenplay by David Lowery, story by William Shatner. I mean, so it is based on the creators of the story for the film. So this shouldn't be considered non-canon, but in any case. But so looking that up, it did say that at some point this Sarah Susan Eckert would be the president of the United States. So that it identifies her that way. Here it's Northam. It's like, what is it? Eventually it occurred to me, oh, Northam as in North American, but we're writing it out Northam. It's like, what? And for one thing, there's more than one country in North America. So that's not really and let me tell you one thing also. On top of the whole, I don't think but Mount Rushmore is finished as a work of art. You're not changing it. You can do things to maintain it and restore it, but you're not changing it. But there was, as far as being a North American president, it's like there is no way we would allow a Canadian president to be on Mount Rushmore. I'm just saying. Only way that's happening is if Canada's going to somehow invade, capture, and decide to put somebody on there. But I think if they tried that, Canada would cease to exist because we would just annex it and kick them all out. At least anyone that thought that was a good idea to touch Mount Rushmore. It just, theory, at least Canada's near enough that you could see them doing that. Mexico wouldn't. I don't understand why you would make it Northam. I really don't. Because maybe it was jargon at the time to identify North America as like that, but it still is Mount Rushmore is a United States monument. It's not a North American monument. Don't change that. And even Sulu should kind of be cognizant of it. And yeah, there's also that. You can't be like, oh, well, they don't want to talk about specific countries. It's like, well, no, because they do talk about, like for Chekhov, Russia. They do make reference to Russia, a specific country. So, yeah, you can do references to the United States. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for doing that. But then there's also this. On the very next page, at least for the Kobo. Dinner smelted wonderful, and beans tasted as good as they smelted. That's smelled, S-M-E-L-L-E-D, not S-M-E-L-T-E-D, which would be the past tense for smelting, for smelt, as in like smelting metal. Yeah. That one makes me wonder, if I had the print copy, would it be there? As sad as it may sound, that could be an OCR error. It could be. It still shouldn't be there, though. And it's also, it actually shouldn't be an OCR error. Well, it could be one, but one that would be very, very bad. Because, I could believe that so many decades ago now, a few decades ago, when this was originally written, that they may have stored the copy on the plates used for printing or on a piece of film so that it would just be projected onto. I believe it wasn't stored digitally as text. And so later at some point it was scanned in to make it suitable for printing again on more modern laser printers. That is assuming that they weren't being printed on laser printers to begin with. But even then, I could see that some of those maybe were based more on optical system than on text-based system. Regardless, well, no, it's not regardless. It's totally relevant. But I could believe that error, which is very much an error and should not be present, certainly not twice, I could believe that would also exist in the print version. Which act? Oh. I I wonder now. What would that imply for copyright? No, it won't be there. Okay, so if I grab like the trilogy novelization or one of the Star Trek trilogy novelizations, the copyrights given in them are for when they were originally written, which implies it's the original edition, that there aren't any changes. And I did find some typos in some of those, in certainly the Star Wars ones. And it's like, okay, they just never fixed it, but those are somewhat minor typos. This is not... Smelted is... It should be... Well, no, it shouldn't be a minor typo. None of them should be minor typos. But the fact that it happens twice... But now I'm just wondering, if it is an OCR error, they scanned it in and it just made that mistake twice and no one caught it. But if the original version that the copyright actually applies to doesn't have that error, that would mean that this would be a different edition. And without the copyright being updated to the year that they did the OCR, and this is assuming that it's OCR, I'm only assuming that. I'm assuming that this error is not in the original version. Would that mean then that the copyright is not, that this is not under copyright? Because you are supposed to update the copyright every time you make a change. That is fascinating to me. Because, I mean, think about that. If I could believe that that could be a small quirk in the copyright law. That if you have a book that gets OCR'd, even though the book is copyrighted, like the copyright is still active at the time you did the OCR, if the OCR has any errors in it, that then means it is not a version of the copyrighted text. Because when you copyright's very specific. So changes to it without updating the copyright might then make it a version that is out of copyright. Technically a new edition. And if it doesn't have the because that has happened for some things where... Oh, what was it? To give you an example of how specific copyright is, I have a movie. It's actually my stack of movies right here. It's a very good movie, by the way, called Charade. It's the best Alfred Hitchcock movie he never made. I mean, no, it is a very Hitchcockian movie. Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn, James Coburn, George Kennedy, Walter Matthau. Ned Glass? Is that his name? Very good movie. But it is technically in public domain because... Yes, that is him. I'm trying to remember the specific way. It's for one of two reasons. And I think it was actually that... So when you write the copyright symbol in... And let me actually... That wouldn't have... Give me a moment. Okay, so I grabbed the trilogy novelization here. And it has introduction copyright with the symbol followed by 2004. And then copyright symbol 1982, 1984, 1986. If it were written reversed, where it was like 2004 and then the copyright symbol, 1982 and the copyright, that is actually an invalid writing of it and does actually invalidate the whole copyright then. That it would not be under copyright. I'm dead serious. That is actually how it works. It is that specific. And I think that might have been what happened with Charade. That they had it in the wrong order. And the law is that specific. So that means that there are versions of Charade. It's so weird with films how there's just different versions of it that are actually in public domain. My version is the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, and it's quite nice. Very happy with it. But it's still... I do wonder if you don't do a new copyright, every time, for every book that gets converted to ebook, that isn't done where you're just taking the text in and putting it in there, that might actually invalidate the copyright. I am so curious about this now. Because that has implications. Such major implications. Because that could mean then that there's a lot of literature that there could be, if there are OCR errors, which is the funniest part. It's only if there is an OCR error that this would apply. But if there are, such that it's not a one-to-one version, that might then mean that there's a whole bunch of books that have versions that are not under copyright and therefore might actually be public domain. Ooh, that's a... Yeah, that's wild. But it is also possible that I could be completely wrong. But it is also... No, copyright, though, is specific enough that any new edition, ebook is technically a new version, and if the text is not the same, copyright can be specific enough to be like, yeah, no, guess what, that doesn't... It's now a different edition. Formatting, however, doesn't necessarily have to be the same. It's specifically for the text here. So the fact that it can, just because it's on... Okay. If the text in this is identical to the text in the ebook version, then the same copyright would apply. Even though it's a different medium, it might even have some different formatting as far as just, what constitutes a page and what doesn't, because it's dynamic here. That doesn't interfere with copyright. Trademark, yeah, but you don't trademark this stuff. So, yeah, but... I'm going to have to ask my brother, because he actually does some stuff that does involve public domain works, and he might know some of this. It's fascinating. Anyway, have this then, because we get to Kirk, Spock, McCoy just sitting there talking, and at one point somebody brings up that, why do we do... Well, yeah, it's Bones that brings up, why do we always spend our time together? We go at each other so much when, we're on the ship. Why is it that we're now choosing to spend our time together? Yeah, all the time and space getting on each other's nerves. And what do we do when shore leave comes around? Spend it together. Most people have families. It's like, they are their family. The crew is their family. But we also have this, because Spock starts talking about how, well, Kirk has a nephew that he could stay with. He's got his own family on Vulcan. But also, you, Doctor, have a daughter and a granddaughter, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. What? Now, I know that there is a theory, but I don't care much for this, and I'll explain why. That because DeForest Kelley, there we go, I was blanking on his name, often wore a ring, typically on his pinky, as I recall, that some decided to come up with an in-universe explanation for it, aside from just, man wore a ring, that it was actually like he was divorced or was a widower. I think mainly a divorce, and he just keeps the ring there. That he doesn't wear it here because he's not actually married at the time, but that he still keeps it, and that's why he wears it there. Well, there might have been actually some episodes, or at least some scenes, where DeForest Kelley didn't take off his wedding ring, and it's just, oh, you see that? It's it is a TV show, people. We don't need to look at it as though every single detail is exactly fact for Star Trek. I don't understand why people obsess over it like that. But then this being having a family, like a daughter and a granddaughter, it's like, I'm sorry, I reject this so much. For kind of the reason that we also get here. When we get back to the ship, I'm going to force both of you to look at 4 dozen hollows of that granddaughter of mine. It's like, yes, that's what I would expect of McCoy. That he would have 4. Actually, 4 dozen might be too few unless the kid is only a year old. Even that might be too few if it's only a year old. It's like he's going to have these. That is exactly the kind of character I would see. It's like he would not be spending time with Kirk and Spock here unless it was he felt he needed to be there. If he didn't feel need to be there, which Kirk has been acting odd, Spock's also been through a lot recently, maybe feeling, okay, I have to be here for this reason. But otherwise, no, he seems very much the family man that he would be spending as much of his time there as possible. But the family's never been mentioned before. I feel it is inappropriate to put that there. And it's also never mentioned later. Like there's no hint of it in Star Trek 6 or in the end of Encounter at Farpoint, which would be the final 2 times we do see Leonard McCoy. With Star Trek 6, obviously he's in there, but in the second half of Encounter at Farpoint, they dressed him up, DeForest Kelley, in old age makeup to have, was it Crusher, Dr. Crusher, that was showing him around on the Enterprise D? But they had him there for that. It's like no mention about him having any family. It's like you could have done that. I think it's more of a just the author decided going to do that. No one said no, don't do that, because it does give you problems with the character. It really does. Plus, there's also For the World is Hollow and I've Touched the Sky, where he was ready to, well, he thought he was going to die, but he was ready to leave Starfleet to be with the Fabrini priestess, to live with her, to be her husband. No mention about him having been married previously, which that would have been an episode to mention it. Or him having a family, or even just the whole Bones. Are you really going to leave your daughter behind like that? And it's like, because if you stay here, you will never be able to see her again. You really gonna do that? Or are you gonna spend this last year of your life with her? I mean, it's like, so no, that is very strongly a non-canon statement to have here, and yeah, I hate it. I kind of want to say I don't mean to use the word hate, but I actually do. Because it is something that I feel is wrong, and I have an active desire to remove it. So it's stronger than just dislike. I'm not going to froth at the mouth over it, but it's just... It's wrong. Oh yeah, and then we got this that's just... So Spock pulls out a marshmallow, but yeah, I am preparing to toast a marshmelon. A marsh what? Jim blurted. But McCoy silenced him with an elbow in the ribs. Clearly, the doctor was enjoying a little practical joke at the Vulcan's expense. No, he's not. There is no way in hell McCoy is doing this, okay? Not at all possible. Yeah. Where did you learn that, Spock? Did your mother teach you? No. Before leaving the ship, I consulted the library computer in order to familiarize myself with the custom of camping out. So, we're to believe that medical Dr. McCoy, when learning that they will be able to have shore leave and that they will enjoy it together, got into the library computer, had it edit all references to marshmallows to be marshmelons instead. On the off chance that Spock would research camping out, find that this is a activity related to that, and just go with it. He has compromised the library computer to do this, and assumed that Spock would only look at the Enterprise computer and not look at anything else. And also that the Enterprise computer does not phone home to be like, data doesn't match up. Let's fix this. It's... I can understand trying to have the joke here, but it is completely and utterly unreasonable that Bones would be able to pull off such a practical joke. Okay? Now, if it were instead something like Spock, we're going camping. Here's an old pamphlet so you know what's going on. Like, he gives him something. He gives him a booklet, because I could believe that those, in fact, I think they could exist even now, like little guides on how to do it. They would include things, not just the, roasting marshmallow and such, and maybe some of the songs you can do sing-alongs with, but also things like how to properly build a campfire, how to properly put it out. Potentially also, depending where you live, how to store your food properly so animals don't enter. Things like that. Those, I'm pretty sure, exist today. It's not unreasonable that McCoy would just find one, have it altered, and then give that to Spock. That's reasonable. Editing the library computer on the starship is not. Oh, that's right. I didn't highlight that, though. Let me go back. Where is... I might have it in the wrong spot in my notes then. But in any case, there's a reference actually to the motion picture novelization, which annoys the hell out of me. Because, hang on, it should be near this. Come on, where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Yes, and the captain has managed to contact me telepathically before, because they're just talking about why are they all linked up together, and Spock is even like, I don't know why you and why Kirk and Bones are, but the telepathic link, though, the telepathic communication is referenced to in the motion picture novelization, and only the novelization, that while nearly completing Kolinahr, Spock hears Kirk's voice, as though with Kirk being like, I wish Spock were here, he could help me understand what's going on. And I hate the idea, because it's light years away, and we're to believe that Spock is just having this telepathic connection with Kirk over all this distance. That's stupid. It's much easier, it's far better if it's just Spock knows him that well, that Kirk is a voice in his head. They are that close. That makes perfect sense. There's nothing wrong with that. V'ger contacting Spock over light years is like, okay, but it's V'ger. V'ger's a mysterious entity and very powerful. Fine. I still don't like it because of it being so. Because V'ger is technological, but it still is. Okay, there's some way that can make sense. The Spock Kirk thing, the cock thing. No, the Spock Kirk thing. No, that's stupid. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. But still, it's only in the novelization. So you read Dillard, you read the novelization for that and decided, I'm going to make a reference to something in this specific, in like chapter 3? Things in chapter 3, but then confirmed later as a telepathic link. You're going to reference that, but you're going to completely screw up how Romulans are based on what was written in both Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock quite extensively. I just... Oh, yeah, also, another thing. Wanna know one of the things that's in marshmallows? Sucrose! What were we told in Voyage Home? Vulcans get drunk on that. That was also stupid in the Voyage Home. I don't like that, but it still is. You need to be respecting that, so are we gonna have Spock now being drunk? Having impaired judgment for however long? Because he got drunk off of a single mint. Now he's having a full marshmallow? I can believe the marshmallow has more sucrose in there. Just saying. And he also, though I'm not sure how much alcohol would impact him, the beans that he had, that Bones had fixed, he poured bourbon in. Maybe not enough to be much, but to have much of an impact, but it's still there. Spock does not imbibe. So he might be a lightweight. He might not be, I'm not sure. Though there is a line from Bones saying that it probably wouldn't even impact his metabolism, and Spock was just like, well, as you often point out, I am half human. One thing, though, that I would have appreciated is if there was something, as Bones is like, I'm about to share with you this family recipe, if Spock were like, is there any meat in that? Because Spock does try to be a vegetarian at all times. He's not incapable of eating meat, he just chooses not to. Because that is the Vulcan way. It's like, something there would have been, I think, appropriate, far more appropriate than some of this stuff. Because it is consistent with his character. So yeah, that would have been good. That would have been good. But we don't get that. And the beans would be fine. That shouldn't be any kind of issue for Spock. So yeah, you got things that make sense and be consistent with what has been established over the years and years of Star Trek. Not gonna do it. You have things that are inconsistent with literally the books written immediately before this one. So now we come back to Nimbus 3. That, again, we're finding out that the Federation is really not good at diplomacy. So we find out more about Talbot. He was a rising star, a great diplomat. Actually managed to achieve peace between two parties that were on the brink of starting interstellar war. I actually do kind of wonder if that is actually all that great an achievement. What I mean by that is, I could believe it is easier to achieve peace before the start of a war than it might be after the war started, assuming that it's still fresh. I could believe that. Just because, the inertia of war has not yet begun. But at the same time, there's the inertia towards war that, yeah, there's some instances where, nope, it does not matter what you can try. War's coming. But that, it would depend on circumstances. Like, if there is a deep hatred that has been built up over the years or so leading up to the war, then, yeah, that inertia is going to be very hard to overcome. But anyway, he, because of this, he managed to achieve that. It's like, okay, you can have any post you want. And it also describes that basically he was from a wealthy family, he was very intelligent, and basically, great life, achieving great things, and everything was always easy for him. And he gets assigned to a planet named Andor, which is still a little bit of an issue. It's nearly, A instead of E, but still, Star Wars. Gets assigned there, and this planet has an issue that the capital city had a large population of disaffected immigrants, most of them miners from the neighboring system. Charlu? Something like that. The Andorians, and it's just, it's funny, now that I'm saying it aloud, it's like, oh, yeah, the Andorians, duh. But are they from Andor? Is that the name of the planet in Star Trek? I actually don't remember now. If it had been established that was... But that would also mean then that Star Wars Endor, it seems similar to Andor, so Andor would be older. Okay, no, that's what I thought. The Andorians were a warp-capable humanoid species from the moon of Andoria. From the moon Andoria. It's so not Andor, so that's not necessarily the same. Okay. Okay. But in any case, that's where he is. And he had worked closely with a female Andorian governor. So are they naming? Did they take a plan and name it Andor? Kind of wondering about that now. But anyway, these immigrants that had apparently been there long enough for it to be, there was a mention. I think it was 7 generations. Yeah, that they were miners and benefited the Andorian economy for the past 7 generations, but they have not been allowed to have a voice in the government there. It's like 7 generations? That's not how that works. Like at that point, you're not just immigrants, you are full citizens at that point, it would seem. I mean, just yeah, I just this is I mean, just again, this seems like you're just pulling stuff that, oh, that sounds bad, but it's like, yeah, it is bad, but it doesn't make sense that this is how it would be. But anyway, they had kidnapped various influential citizens, including the adolescent son of the city's governor. And the governor is a woman. Talbot had worked closely with her, probably also liked her. But he was like, I got this. I am the great Talbot. I've negotiated hostages before. I've done hostage negotiations before. I can handle this. He felt more than competent to handle the situation alone at his insistence. After all, he was at the top of his form. So great, St. John, his name is St. John Talbot, needed no native cultural advisors to help him clean up the mess. Dude's an idiot. Culture always needs to be considered. Okay, it always needs to be considered for something like that. It needs to be considered in the science fiction where you're dealing with other cultures right there. I mean, go back and look at some of the... You can find it. The chapter 6? Don't remember, because it was only... Return of the Jedi was only like 9 chapters long. It's 5 or 6, I think. Where... Because I still remember, it sticks to my mind so much with the whole... The Ewoks, getting them to fight with them. And it's like, because as I'm reading it, I'm making the notes even, and then I talked about it in the video. It's like when Han and Luke are trying to convince the Ewoks, it's like what they're saying makes sense to them, but it has no cultural significance to the Ewoks. And then we get Leia talking, and she says one line, tell them to do it for the trees. It's like, okay, I was so happy, because like, perfect. This makes sense because this is actually of cultural significance to them. They live in the trees, and they're still a Stone Age species. The things that they live in and among are going to be of great significance to them. This is good. And then we got the whole speech from Wicket, which was just fantastic, and was loaded with culture on the Ewoks. I loved it. So good. But this dude is like, I'm a great diplomat. Obviously, I can do everything alone. Now, obviously, I don't need to know anything about the cultures I'm dealing with. Even though I asked to be assigned here, I apparently never did any research on the damn planet. So anyway, he sent a letter that the way he had done it made it actually an insult to these people, and they were like, okay, he insulted us. Kill the kid. And they even, like, when not dishonorable people, we broke his neck first. So, no pain, very quick, very easy. It's like, anyway, but that broke Talbot, his total failure here. And that's what led him to become alcoholic and to despair. And despite that, he still managed to get the job at Nimbus 3. What the... Sorry, I just saw a little bit of Chapter 5. Oh wait, no, it might be reference to that. Okay. But anyhow, so apparently the Federation's like, huh, you screwed up badly. You got all these people killed because you did something you should have known better. You were truly stupid. We're not gonna fire you. We're not even going to evaluate you and like have you go through some sort of psychological analysis because, it's like this is a major blow to you, major blow to your ego. The child of somebody you were working closely with was just killed because you screwed up, and you're now an alcoholic. Or at least, we can smell the alcohol on you. We're not going to do any kind of psychological evaluation on you and determine that, oh, you're totally unfit for this position anymore. No, we're just going to assign you to a planet where you're basically not going to have any responsibility, even though this planet is one that should be of great importance. None of this makes sense. Ugh. He should have gotten a psych eval for something like that. And been told, you're not working here anymore, dude. Not until you get this straightened out. It's a thready story, and that sucks. Okay, I'm just quickly... Okay. So I just start chapter 5, and I do kind of like to see, okay, where's the next chapter going to be? The ancient probe hurtled aimlessly through the blackness of uninhabited space. I'm just like, son of a bitch, we're back to motion picture Voyage Home with ancient probes. What the hell? But then I remembered. The introduction of the bird of prey in Final Frontier is with them encountering like an old derelict Voyager probe and destroying it as like target practice. Like, okay, that's likely what it is. Skimming down, it's like, yes, that's what it is. Okay, I can tolerate that. I can tolerate that. But a lot of this, yeah. I've not been enjoying the chapter. I mean, the writing might be fine, but there's so many technical errors and more significant errors than that it's just, why is this what we're doing? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't align with what we've had before. It's inconsistent. Oh, you did read this novelization, but you're ignoring stuff from this novelization. There is no way you can say it is consistent. The description that Savick gives for being half Romulan, half Vulcan, and what that means in Romulan society, there's no way you can align that with Caitlin being named for her given a name that would align with the culture of her human grandfather, despite being it is not possible for those to coexist. But we're getting a certain fine detail out of the motion picture. See you next time.